Okay, what if I told you that the most powerful things in your kitchen aren't your high-tech gadgets or your sharpest knives, but that little collection of jars in your spice rack? Yeah, we use them every single day to make our food taste great, but it turns out there's some seriously fascinating science hiding inside them, a power that goes way beyond just flavor. I mean, just think about it for a second. That gorgeous golden turmeric in your curry, right? That amazing smelling oregano on your pizza, or that spicy kick of ginger in a stir fry. For literally centuries, these have been the cornerstones of amazing food all over the world. They're what make our favorite meals, well, our favorites.
But what if their real job wasn't just in the kitchen? Lately, you hear all these claims, right, that these same spices might have some pretty powerful effects on our health. So today, we're going to dig in. We're going to separate the actual science from the hype and figure out what's really going on in that spice rack of yours.
So, the secret to a spice's potential power, it all comes down to something called bioactive compounds. It's a sciencey term, but all it means is these are the natural little chemicals inside the plant that can actually interact with our bodies. They're the source of all the health buzz we keep hearing about. And each spice has its own star player. You could even call them the MVPs. For turmeric, the big one is curcumin. For ginger, it's gingerol. In oregano, you've got curvacarol and thymol. Saffron has crocin. And others, like cinnamon and cloves, they're just loaded with things called phenols and flavonoids. These are the specific molecules that are at the very heart of all the health claims.
So what do these little compounds actually do? Well, in a lab setting, they're total rock stars. I mean, scientists have seen them act as really potent antioxidants, which basically help protect our cells from damage, kind of like rust-proofing for your body. And they also act as powerful anti-inflammatories, which can help calm things down when your body gets stressed out.
And some of the early research is, it's incredibly exciting. Lab studies suggest oregano's compounds can fight off bacteria. Gingerol is pretty well known for helping with nausea. And get this, in a test tube, curcumin has even been shown to stop cancer cells from growing. But, and this is a huge but, we have to remember, these are lab studies. And that brings us to our first major hurdle. Look, there is a massive, massive difference between what happens to a few cells in a petri dish and what happens inside the unbelievably complex system of a living, breathing human body. A lab result is great. It shows potential. But a human trial? That's what gives you real-world proof.
And this quote from registered dietitian Devin Peart just says it all perfectly. Yeah, there might be some potential for oregano to help with stress based on what we see in the lab, but until there are human studies, it's just that, potential. And that's a really important distinction to make. Okay, on to our second big hurdle, and this one is a doozy. Bioavailability. This concept is so important. It's not about what you eat, it's about what your body can actually absorb and put to work. If your body can actually get to a compound, it doesn't matter how powerful it is in a test tube. Let's use turmeric as our poster child for this. You know that bright yellow powder you cook with? Well, it turns out it's only about 3% curcumin, that main active compound by weight. Just 3%. That's a tiny, tiny fraction to begin with. And to make matters even worse, our bodies are just really bad at absorbing even that tiny little bit of curcumin. Most of it just passes right through us. So you've got this supposedly powerful compound, this key, but your body just can't seem to get it to fit the lock. But, and here's where science gets really cool, researchers found a hack, a totally natural one. They discovered that when you combine curcumin with something called piperine, which is the active compound in black pepper, its bioavailability goes through the roof. By how much? By an absolutely incredible 2,000%. It's a perfect example of food synergy. So does that mean we should all be running out to buy a bottle of high-dose curcumin pills? Well, not so fast. There is a huge difference between cooking with spices and taking supplements. With food, you get small, safe doses. Supplements, though, they give you these super concentrated doses, and the industry has very little regulatory oversight, which honestly can open the door to a whole lot of problems. And you know what? The experts are all on the same page here. Mary Eve Brown, a clinical dietitian over at Johns Hopkins, she's crystal clear about it. She says it is so much better to get these compounds from whole foods. And why? Because those supplements, they come with risks. Yeah, taking these compounds in super concentrated forms can cause some real issues.
High-dose turmeric supplements have been linked to a higher risk of kidney stones. Oregano oil can actually increase bleeding risk, and large amounts of ginger can interfere with blood centers. It's a classic case where more is definitely not better.
So, after all these hurdles and all these warnings, does this mean that spices are just a bunch of hype? Absolutely not. No way. It just means we've been looking for the magic in the wrong place. The real, proven benefits, they aren't in a pill bottle. They're exactly where we started, in our food.
Okay, now let's look at some actual human data, because this is where it gets really cool. In a study, when people ate a meal that included spices, the impact was undeniable. Compared to the baseline, just adding cinnamon significantly lowered the blood sugar response. But check this out. A mixed blend of spices, like turmeric and cloves, it performed even better. This isn't a theory in a lab. This is a real, measurable effect happening inside real people.
So how in the world does this work? Well, it's pretty neat. Essentially, the antioxidants in the spices get in the way of the enzymes that chop up starches into sugar. They kind of run interference, slowing the whole process down. And the result is a gentler, lower blood sugar spike after you eat. It's a fantastic real-world benefit from just cooking.
And this right here, this brings us to the main takeaway of this whole explainer. The search for a single miracle spice in a pill, it completely misses the point. The true power isn't found in one isolated compound. It's in the complex, delicious, powerful synergy that happens when you cook with a whole variety of spices.
So the biggest health secret isn't in one magic spice. It's in the variety of your entire spice rack. It's a pretty cool reminder that sometimes the most profound health tools have been sitting right there in our kitchens this whole time. So I guess the only question left is, what are you going to cook with next?